Could you imagine playing an FPS where bullets are raining down upon you, the main character, but you do not have a weapon of any kind? This is one of the main driving ideas behind MindSwap. In MindSwap, you play as a character that has the ability to take complete control over their enemies and use them to accomplish objectives and defend themselves against the hordes of enemies that they will have to face. While I've been developing this idea, there hasn't really been a main theme to speak of. I like the idea of using robots that you hack into, but it could be mind control, possession, or anything like that. My main mechanic is a simple one that has been in more than a few games at this point. Games like Mindjack, Psyops, Dishonored, and many, many more games that feature some type of mind control. What makes my idea so special is that the player does not carry a weapon and are unable to fight, so they must take over their enemies to fight for them. But they are not just fighting, they will also be used to solve puzzles and accomplish tasks to progress forward to their goal, which at the moment is to simply get to the end of each room in the game. The main character you play as has only one ability, to take control of their enemies. This ability does leave them at risk. Your body will stand where you were when you took over an enemy, so you better be in a safe area or you could potentially die. While controlling an enemy, you have a certain amount of time before you get kicked out of their body and back into your own. Once you leave an enemy's body, they will freeze in place for a while before returning back to normal, and your mind control ability has to recharge before being used again. Each enemy you can take over has different abilities that you can use, and they can be used against you. There is the large tank enemies that have powerful guns and move slowly and are strong enough to pick up a variety of objects. The fast enemies that have low impact weapons but move very quickly. The extremely tiny mouse-like enemies that can explode, jump high, and fit almost anywhere so they can fit into small areas. And finally, the soldier enemy that functions like a typical FPS character, including the ability to have two guns and grenades. With these four types of enemies alone, the player has a variety of options on how to handle combat. Besides basic combat, I'm planning on adding in some light puzzle solving that will eventually require the player to combine all the skills of all the enemies to progress. For example, you can use a heavy enemy to hold up a box that was blocking a time door so the fast enemy can run through it and turn off the timer. Or, while the tank is holding up the box, you can get the tiny enemy that could jump onto the box to get to a hidden area. I do see some potential risks in making MindSwap. For one, taking control of the enemies isn't a full-on issue, but trying to balance them out as opponents and playable characters will be. A solid possible fix to this would be to develop different states for the enemies, one for when they are AI and one for when they are player-controlled. Making the main character feel useful is also important as well. The main thing I worry about when it comes to the player protecting their main character is not having to feel like a burden on them. This could ruin a lot of the experience if not handled correctly. And designing more interactions between the enemy types will be a challenge. I'll have to make a set amount of rules that each enemy follows that can mingle and match between all the enemies. But that's my pitch. Thank you for watching and have a lovely day.